All right, so next up we are going to talk about Summer Walker. She's another one of these hip hop slash, music celebritantes.
That's right.
So she's clapping back at people who have slick things to say about her penchant for getting pregnant. So I'm not exactly sure how this came up, um, but she does her appearances here and there. Um, she is, I think she's about to make an appearance on Young Miami's show. I believe that's the context. But these were interesting comments that she made about people who have something to say about the fact that she gets pregnant as often as she does, I guess, or by as different men, I guess, or I guess that's the context. But this one says Summer Walker retorts at Instagram user making fun of her pregnancies. With the release of her hotly anticipated new EP, Clear 2 Soft Life, Summer Walker is riding high on a wave of praise and a successful return to the recorded project space. However, some out there unfortunately keep speaking on her personal life instead. For example, her and Young Miami recently teased that she would be the next guest on the latter's podcast, Carisha Please. I think I'm saying that right. Carisha. Uh, Maybe a fan in particular wanted to imagine what funny questions Miami would have for her, but if so, the joke clearly didn't land. "Quote: How many niggas you gonna let get you pregnant?" The commenter wrote in quotation marks. "Quote: As many as I want." Summer Walker replied. "Rich people can do what they want because they can afford it. Stop counting my pussy." In
Damn.
fact, even in fact, even Young Miami herself came into the Neighborhood Talks coverage of the clapback to show her support for the singer. "Energy summer," she commented in the Instagram post. "What's more is that such a dig is moot considering all that Summer's done lately, getting her flowers from Sukihana, Lotto, and many more for Clear 2 Soft Life." I guess those are just collabs on that album. Still, that's not to say that a lot of people aren't interested in the 27-year-old's personal life in less hurtful ways. For example, her recently public relationship with Lil Meech has brought forth a lot of wholesome content for fans to feed on. Most importantly, the two seem to have a very good time together, so much so that people want it reflected more in her stage presence after she danced enthusiastically with him. In classic Summer Walker fashion, she brushed those criticisms off quite easily. "Quote: I'm tired," she expressed on Instagram. "If I came out on stage like this to show slow ass music, they'd say it's crack. Like, please." Meanwhile, even a sex tape involving her current boo can't phase her. Moreover, Selena Powell posted a video of her and Lil Meech allegedly engaging on OnlyFans, which could have been a speed bump, which could have been a big speed bump for other couples. For them, it seemed like more of a yield sign that they sped right through. No matter what you think of the Atlanta natives, she'll probably retort it in a funny and matter of fact way. For more news and the latest updates on Summer Walker, log back in Out New Hip Hop. So, yeah, Summer Walker has 3 kids. I think she's 27. She had her first kid with producer London on the track. That didn't work out. Then she gave birth to twins by some dude named Larry, and that also did not work out. And now she is dating Lil Meech,
Larry.
who plays Big Meech in the 50 Cent Stars show, BMF. And Big Meech, Lil Meech, all of these damn names. Lil Meech underwent, he apparently, uh, got some action from industry thought Selena Powell,
Damn.
and she talked about it, and I think there's a video of it, but apparently that didn't affect his relationship with Summer Walker. So there you go. The main reason why I brought this up was the comment that she made, in which she said, the comment that she made about rich people, saying rich people can do what they want because they can afford to stop counting my pussy. So there you go. Summer Walker spares no expense to make it clear she's going to do whatever she wants. And if that involves having more kids, she's going to do that because she's rich. So stop counting her pussy.
Damn.
Uh, what do you think about all of that?
All right. Sorry, guys. I'm gonna have to do a little confession right now. I had no idea who Summer Walker was. Now you guys could just boo me, throw tomatoes, take whatever I'm about to say as invalid. But I think me being um objective with this whole situation helps my analysis. So here's what I gotta say. All right, so I did a little research. I can't say that I've heard any of these songs, but I'm sure I have. All right, I only clicked on a handful, and as I'm going through her catalog, at least on YouTube, she sounds pretty good. So she sounds new age R&B. It sounds like she's trying to be old school R&B, but still a little too new age for me. But it's as throwback as you can get for somebody that's doing music now. So her music isn't off putting. I'll say that. I saw her raps. Her raps are a little bit off putting, but I like her energy. I saw a couple of interviews of hers, and she seems to be a quirky person, but who she seems to be comfortable with who she is as a quirky person. So I'm not surprised now from doing my little background of her to hear her retort to her haters, telling them to stop counting her pussy at that point. So at that point, all of that made a lot of sense. So I say all that to say that she's pretty much got a point. And to tie into my last point of this is a different day and age, and money is changing the game for a lot of this stuff. All of the security that everybody has, for women, even though it's still dangerous for them out here. I get it, ladies, but it's still a lot of security going on out here. So, um, times have changed, and women don't have to do the same things for reproduction anymore. So she's doing what she wants, and she got the bag to do it. She doesn't need the man to come in there and support the house. If she wants another kid, she can pop out another one, and she ain't got to worry about child support. They're gonna be running around following her. So she doesn't have a Nick Cannon situation going on. All the seeds are staying with her, so she ain't got to pay no child support. So what about you, bro? How do you feel about this? This is some new age stuff going on here with all of this relationships and pregnancies from Larry. How do you feel about this, bro?
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of the comments, although I do. Once again, it's one of those things. It's like the last topic. I understand it, but I don't think that has to mean that it's acceptable. I don't like the I don't like this flippant. So one thing that I've noticed is that there's now sort of flippant, and let me disclaimer, JV wins disclaimer. This
All
does not
right, here
apply
you
to
go.
everybody.
All
Okay,
right.
I gotta because I want to make that very clear. I don't mean everybody's doing this. I just mean that I'm observing this as something that is growing in frequency in terms of how
Mhm.
often it occurs over time. But like, this flippant approach to having kids, um to me it's less about the money itself and more about the use of money as a rationalization for just flippantly having kids because you just feel like it. That's the part about it that I'm uncomfortable with. um like I noticed that this started happening. Like a lot of these, we've talked about some of these, sharks that exist out here in the world looking to extract uh, resources from high value men because they can, because men are lacking in certain, you know brain power and social skills that can make them able to resist being caught up in that kind of thing. So women kind of prey on them. um so these sharks out here, a lot of women who live their life cleat chasing, going after rappers, athletes, professional ballers, entertainers, being hypergamists, uh, not necessarily caring about the viability of the relationship, but just intending to get pregnant on purpose. Like the idea is to have a child flippantly so that it can be used as a bargaining chip to continue to yield a particular kind of lifestyle. Like, I'm not comfortable with such a flippant approach to having kids. And I even mentioned before, like, I started to notice these things going on. I started to hear women talk like this, particularly younger women, where they talked about looking forward to having a baby. So, like, it was never really about having a family. It was just about having a baby. So they didn't really care. The prospect of being a baby mama to them wasn't something that was degrading. It wasn't
Right.
a disconcerting notion.
Right.
They don't really care. It's like being a baby mama, being a baby daddy, whatever, single parent. Single parenthood has become this mainstay in the West,
Yeah.
to the point where it's so prominent that women in particular sort of approach having children flippantly. Not
Hmm.
all women, but a lot of women. And it's growing in frequency. So women, if they can get with a guy who can provide something, prioritizing the long term viability of the relationship is secondary to just popping the kid out, so that you can just have this kid, and now you can receive what you can receive through the merit of having the child, or so that you can receive the intrinsic value that you get from being a mother in the first place. But the family aspect of it is secondary to you being a mom and having the kid. To me, that is somewhat dysfunctional and flippant. And her comment about rich people can do whatever they want, to me, that speaks to the flippant nature with which we have come to perceive having children. So, to kind of take her words literally, I will continue to irresponsibly have children because I'm rich and I can do whatever I want. Like, practically speaking, is that true? Sure. You can do whatever you want. It's your body and it's your money. And if you can afford it, because children are expensive, sure, go for it. But this to me is another sign, much like the last topic that we covered, of a degradation of traditional ideals and values. And although I understand it because I understand the genesis and I know where it comes from, I nevertheless don't really think that it is functional, and I don't think that it's stable long term. Um, some of these kids are going to grow up dysfunctional and very compromised mentally as a result of being raised within these types of contexts. And that ain't good for society, not in my opinion. I know I'm grandstanding here, but that's kind of where my mind went when I saw these kinds of comments. Like, why do we have to talk? Why do we have to? And it cuts even deeper when you think about the money part of it, because now what you're doing is you're minimizing this down to a matter of rich versus not rich. So I'm going to continue to have these kids because I got this money and I'm rich. And I'm shitting on you. You don't make as much money as me, so you can't afford to do any of this. So if you do it, even though you may be a better quality mother than me, it's boo boo to you, the fool, because I'm rich and you're not. So now we got that whole dichotomy of rich versus not rich, and this weird thing that we typically shame men for when it comes to money or lack thereof. Now there's just a shaming of people in terms of, you know, your ability to successfully or otherwise have children based upon how rich you are or lack thereof. So, I mean, the whole thing is kind of foul to me. But I guess if I am going to take her words literally at face value, she does have a point. I'm just kind of listening to what she's saying and I'm throwing up in my mouth. I think it's gross. Like, you're rich, so what? What if you're a shitty mother? And I'm not suggesting she is a shitty mother. I don't
I
know
got.
her.
Yeah, I got.
I'm just saying, principally speaking, you know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Like, you're
Yeah. Yeah.
what point are you making by doing that? And we do that far too often, where we deduce people's worth and value in this world, particularly with us as black people, along the lines of, are you rich? Are you making money? It's the same conversation about men and men who are working class. Men who are working class are no good, useless, worthless, not good enough, because oh my God, you're working class. You must be rich in order to be good enough for anything in this world now, if you're a guy. And this to me is a type of rhetoric that is consistent with that underlying message. You can do this because you're rich, even if you're bad at it. And, uh, I don't really like it, but I get it. I get where it comes from. I'm just not the biggest fan. So she can have that. She's already two baby daddies in. In all likelihood, she'll be three baby daddies in pretty soon. Um, and I know we're living in a world as you and our when you said that last week, it was so profound to me because it's a very succinct way of putting it. We're in a world now of free sex and no consequences. So I understand it's free sex, no consequences. Pop these jits out, have these kids, and how can I substantiate my decision to do so? Because I'm rich and you're not. So I think it's counterproductive to raising functional human beings who can contribute to society, let alone family and all of those grandiose ideals. I'll let that one go. But just in terms of raising people who aren't going to, grow into being sociopaths as adults, I think we can let some of this stuff go. But that's just me.
Hey man, sorry, bro. This is where we're
I
at.
know, I know, I
So,
know.
and this does kind of tie into the last topic, especially what you're talking about with the whole flippant nature of people having kids. It's the same. They have the same flippant nature over marriage. No one cares, and it's old. The young people look at marriage, because I was looking at marriage like, really, you know, and just seeing marriages from TV, people that I knew and stuff like that. It didn't look like fun to me. And so I was like, well, I don't want to do this. So a lot of people saw that. So the people that did grow up in two-parent households saw that. Then then there was the people that grew up in no single parent households or whatever. And so in the single parent households, they didn't see functionality at all. So they only saw one person. And that's only one side of functional. If even if they're doing two jobs, that's only one side of the equation. You need plus and minus to make the battery go. So so you only saw one side of the equation, so you still don't get it. So there's a lot of people who had that going on, and they said, "Well, my people made it. I turned out pretty good. What's the big deal?" And then so we got a lot of that cooking out here. So I've heard girls or women say, I'm gonna have a kid at this age, whether I'm married or not.
Right. Yeah. I've heard that a lot too.
So they
Yeah.
say, well, if I ain't married by whatever, I'm gonna still have a kid. I've been asked to be a donor before. And I said, hey, so you mean in a cup? Or you mean a real thing? Because I ain't doing no cups. She talking about some cup. I said, girl, please. You're not getting any of this. So, but yeah, man, that's the thing. Freezing eggs. They got all kinds of stuff they doing out here now, to circumvent nature. But hey, man, this is what's going on, unfortunately, man, in mass. So this isn't everybody, but in mass, this thing has gotten wings and it's taken off. So
Yeah.
if you're still out there in the market, you just got to know who you're dealing with. And people pretty much speak their agendas right off the bat. So if they want a baby from you, they'll let that be known. All right. If they want marriage from you, they'll let that be known. If they just want to play around, they'll let that be known. And you just got to take people's word for it. Stop trying to force these square pegs into round holes. Not everybody's worth your time and effort. And but yeah, this young lady here, yeah, she's just a reflection of what modern people are doing because, well, they can afford it. These are first world problems, man. So you can't really say these things in other countries in the world. But I'll tell you this. Yes, this is big in our community, like flipping it on you about money, but she's also an artist and she's
Mhm.
also in that world. And that's always the big flex is that, well, I got more resources than you. So your life must be miserable. That's why you're hating on me. And
I
so,
guess yeah, I agree. Not to cut you off, I'm gonna let you finish. But yeah, when I speak on the community aspect, it's just because the majority of the people who are an artist in this particular genre of music come from the community.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
it's not really about the community per se. It's really more about the music, honestly.
Yeah, yeah. And so,
Yeah.
yeah. And that's kind of like how rappers, artists, or whoever, they gotta flip it on you that, "Oh, I'm stunting on your ass." So how you love that? And of course, all the yuppies and fans is gonna love that. So, hey man, uh, more power to her, I guess. Some of the lyrics that I heard, I can barely listen to that stuff. And I'm sitting there listening to it, and she's good now compared to all this other crap that I didn't hear. But as I'm listening to it, I'm trying to hear the lyrics, but it's too much heartbreak, too much other stuff. And to
Hmm.
me, R&B isn't always about heartbreak. So, but that's what's going on, man. So this is the
Yeah,
way we either gotta, we're just the old heads, man. We're just the
I
old
know.
people.
Oh, yeah, I know for sure. I know I'm an old head.
We're
I
just
know.
the old
I just
heads that don't get it.
yeah, man. I just look like this, but I know I'm an old head. Yeah, I hear all of that, man. It's just we comment on this channel, so it is what it is.
I got
But
you.
there's to me there's a difference between I want to be a mother, so I'm going to give it a go. But if it doesn't work out where I can actually have a partner, then I need a backup plan so that I can do this before my clock runs out and my body will no longer allow me to have children. There's a difference between that and I'll just, drop jits and be a baby mama. Like doing that on purpose. Like to me, there's a difference between those two things. And like I think nowadays, we're looking at there being a lack of social responsibility when it comes to discouraging doing it that way on purpose. Not that it's impossible to do it that way on purpose and it turn out okay. I'm not trying to suggest that it's automatically bad, but you'd be hard pressed to get me to agree with the idea that it's ideal. And what we're getting to is a point where it's like, I'm just, it is what it is. I'm just going to get pregnant, like on purpose. And is there an emphasis on whether I'm getting pregnant by somebody who would be a good dad, whether the relationship works out or not, or even will the relationship potentially work out or not? There's no emphasis on any of that at all. It's just, I'll just be a BM. Who I don't care. I'll just be a BM. And when push comes to shove, there's so many options and forms of temptation out there. These days, people's standards and principles overall are just lower across the board. So these days, women don't even the standards have been put, the pendulum has swung so far in the opposite direction when it comes to like standards, um, that women can have two, three, four kids and two, three, or four different child's fathers, and they'll still be able to get on social media and do their thing, and they can still get their DMs and get their dates, and they can still do whatever because free sex and no consequences.
I
So
love it.
you know, it is what it is, man. But interesting comments nevertheless. But yeah, I just got it's interesting to see how having kids has become so trivialized. I think is what I find most fascinating about that. So, you
Yeah,
know,
and that just and this conversation just proves that statistic correct about all these women having kids from the same guys,
yeah.
because this is how it works. They're just hopping around, and then they because they have sex with the man that
Oh
has
yeah.
3 baby mamas already,
Yeah. Yeah,
and they
sure.
go, oh, he working, his seeds work. That must be where they at, and then that's how they end up being the fourth one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they have
Yeah.
this big ass Brady Bunch family, and these reunions in the next 10 years, I don't know what's gonna be going on,
I don't
but
either. It's gonna be interesting. I'm
hey
telling you,
man,
man, like this, we are literally like, we're now 30 or 40 years later starting to see the fruits that like single parenthood initially bore back when we were kids. Cause I feel like maybe Gen Xers, right? So like your older siblings generation, my older brother's generation is the first generation where the baby mama baby daddy thing really started to become like a norm type thing. And now as we're grown, we now are pushing 40, we're starting to see the fruits of that labor all these years later. So these things take time to evolve. But 30, 40 years from now, we're going to see the results and the ramifications of free sex, no consequences.
Oh man, gotta
We
love it.
are. Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what that looks like. But
Man,
yeah, shouts out to Summer Walker. Yeah, baby, you go ahead and get pregnant as many times as you want because you rich and you can afford it. Maybe you and Nick Cannon can get together and write a book on how to
oh
make it
yeah, hey
happen.
man, they're just gonna get together one of these times.
That would be the ultimate Brady Bunch. That would be like Brady Bunch on steroids.
Hysterical.
Yeah.